welcome to our CESI Talks. CESI Talks, just transitions, a series of conversations with experts on the impacts of transitions on the world of work. Today, we have the honor to have with us Oliver Denk, Senior Economist in the Jobs and Income Division of the OECD. Thank you so much for being here, Oliver.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this talk.
And I will start directly with the first question, which is about the possible short-term and long-term impacts of the twin green and digital transition on labor markets. So in what way can they affect our labor markets?
Well, first, I'm really delighted to talk about the twin digital and green transitions. They will really transform our lives. They will transform our jobs, how we work and what we work. And so, well, to answer your question, one important point first is the twin transitions are really proceeding at quite different speeds, in fact. I mean, on the one hand, we're in the midst of the digital transition, with automation technologies and artificial intelligence gaining speed. By contrast, there's not really a big green transition as of today yet, right? So, I mean, experts, for example, they estimate that global carbon emissions will reach another record high this year, so in 2022. Of course, ambitions are clearly high for the green transition, no doubt. But often still they are not matched with action. And so, what you asked me about regarding the impact on the labor market, what I've just said, it means that these two transitions, as we speak, are affecting labor markets so far at quite different speeds, actually. We can see how digital technologies are impacting effectively all workplaces to varying degrees, but hardly any workplace is really spared. Whereas for the green transition, we do not see this economy-wide effects yet. Yeah, clearly there are pockets in the labor market, like the energy industry, for example, or the automobile industry, where there have been significant changes. And these changes, and also actually issues of energy supply due to Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. All these changes, they give us a flavor of what is to come in the green transition.
Oliver, do you see these transitions as an opportunity or a danger for employment and workers? And how can we ensure, if it is possible, that in the frame of the transitions, we will not only create more jobs, but also quality jobs?
Yes, these are very important questions. I mean, actually, just a week ago, we at the OECD published quite important, I think, new research on the impact of digitalization, in this case, on jobs. And what we find in this research is that 28% of jobs are at high risk of being automated, especially in construction, in production, in transport. Not all sectors are hit in the same way, but construction, production, and transport in particular. However, what we also find is that, in fact, some jobs will be destroyed, some jobs will be created, but most jobs, the large majority of jobs, they will not be fully automated. The digital transition will not fully automate our jobs. It will transform, however, how we do our jobs. So it will be more complementary, if you wish, to labor than to replace labor. We also have similar research underway on the green transition and the impact on, so-called green jobs and brown jobs. Now, what is sort of special about the green transition that there's really no alternative. For the digital transition, we can say we want a bit more or less. In some sense, it's in our hands. The green transition, how to shape it, is also in our hands, but we don't really have a choice. In a sense, there's no danger for employment workers because the alternative are ever rising temperatures and, worse weather events. Now, the other part of your question related to the quality of jobs. And I totally agree. It's an important objective of the twin transitions is to create high quality jobs, so good pay, and good working conditions. If we think of the digital transition, actually wages for many jobs should rise. Why do companies become more digitalized? Because digital technologies, they make us more productive at work. Okay, and that hopefully should translate into higher wages. Now, having said this, the transitions will clearly be disruptive, and there's no doubt, and labor policies will have an important role to accompany workers and, yes, to ensure that the transitions happen in a socially fair way. So, for example, I'm thinking of skills policies, education, lifelong learning, and also support, for example, from the public employment services with changing jobs for workers.
And what could be the role of trade unions in this regard, trade unions and social dialogue? How can we, as trade unions, ensure that the transitions will be fair?
Yeah, I mean, what is clear is that the digital and the green transitions, they really can only succeed when all workers are on board. And for example, also here we have recent research where we find that the presence of a work council in a firm is associated with 5 to 10% fewer risks for workers from the digital transition, depending on the risk, right? And so social dialogue and trade unions will have an absolutely critical role for the two transitions. In particular, for identifying the areas, it will be an overhaul of the economy. And so for identifying the areas, where the transitions asking too much of workers, where support to workers needed. On wages, I mentioned before, wages should rise thanks to the digital transition to digital technologies, but it's really for trade unions as well to ensure that the higher worker productivity that comes with it is reflected in higher pay and, not only in higher firm profits. Thinking of wages, it's also important that trade unions enable or try to enable a wage system that is, let's say, sufficiently adaptable or flexible, that supports the structural changes that the twin transitions will bring with them, away from some declining firms or sectors towards growing firms and sectors. And finally, one area where I think trade unions in some instances could invest a bit more is skills development and support for professional reorientation. I know there are a lot of trade unions that have a lot of initiatives in this area. Still, I think the twin transitions will make this even more important, skills development and professional reorientation. So I think here also trade unions can do even more in this area.
Yeah, Oliver, thank you very much.
Thank you.